Melkor, Morgoth, the first Dark Lord of Middle-earth. Before there was Sauron, before the One Ring, before the fall of Numenor or the forging of the Silmarils, there was Melkor, the most powerful of all the Ainur, the first rebel, and the root of all evil in Arda. Welcome to the Geek of the Rings, where today we begin an epic two-part journey through the complete history of Morgoth, Tolkien's original Dark Lord. In this first part, we'll cover his creation, rise to power, the destruction of the two trees, and the beginning of the long wars of the First Age. In the beginning, there was Eru Ilúvatar, the supreme creator. From his thought came the Ainur, divine spirits of incredible power. Among them, one shined brighter than the rest, Melkor. He was the mightiest of all the Ainur, gifted with vast knowledge, curiosity, and power. But Melkor's thirst for creation led him astray. Unlike the other Ainur, who followed the will of Eru, Melkor desired to create life himself. To do so, he sought the flame imperishable, the secret fire that gives true life. But he could not find it, for the flame dwelled only with Eru. Melkor grew resentful and prideful, seeking dominion rather than harmony. When Eru invited the Ainur to perform the great music, the music of the Ainur, Melkor introduced his own themes, creating dissonance. This was the first rebellion. Though others tried to follow his lead, Ilúvatar responded with counter themes, greater and more beautiful. The final theme overwhelmed Melkor, and Ilúvatar ended the music with a single mighty chord. From this music, the universe, called Ea, was born, and among its worlds was Arda, the stage upon which Middle-earth's history would unfold. Ilúvatar allowed those Ainur who wished to enter Arda and shape it. Melkor was among them, but unlike the others, he did not seek to build. He sought to rule. At first, he wore a mask of cooperation, but as the Valar, the most powerful Ainur in Arda, began their work of shaping the world, Melkor turned to sabotage. He broke mountains, reversed rivers, scorched seas, and spoiled the Valar's creations. His hatred became personal, especially toward Aul, the smith, whose works Melkor seemed obsessed with destroying. As the Valar fought to build, Melkor fought to destroy. So the Valar called upon Tulkas, the strongest of their number and a god of war. When Tulkas descended, laughing and full of strength, Melkor fled from Arda, humiliated but not defeated. But peace did not last. Melkor returned in secret, this time to the far north. There, in the shadowy depths of the Iron Mountains, he built the fortress of Utumno. Darkness spread from it like a disease. Creatures grew twisted, forests rotted, and sickness spread. Some of the lesser Ainur, known as Maiar, turned to his side. Among them was one who would later become infamous, Sauron. The Valar, realizing the threat, launched the war for the sake of the Elves. For you see, the first children of Ilúvatar, the Elves, had awakened, and Melkor was already corrupting them, abducting them, perhaps twisting them into the first orcs. The Valar could not allow this. Tulkas returned to battle. After decades of war, they broke through the gates of Utumno. Melkor was captured, bound in chains forged by Aule, called Anganor, and dragged back to Valinor. There he was imprisoned in the timeless halls of Mandos for 3 full ages, almost 3,000 years. But Melkor waited and plotted. When the Valar released him, believing he had repented, Melkor wore a mask once again. He walked among the elves in Valinor, especially the Noldor, the most skilled and curious of the elven clans. There, he whispered, he lied, he spread distrust. He spoke of freedom beyond the sea, of hidden truths, of a Middle Earth where the Noldor could be kings. His poison spread, and his prime target was Feanor, the greatest of all elven smiths, who had crafted the legendary Silmarils, jewels that captured the light of the two trees of Valinor. Melkor lusted for the Silmarils. When Feanor refused to share them, Melkor fled Valinor and sought out a being even darker than himself, Ungoliant, a primordial spirit of unlight in the form of a monstrous spider. Together they struck. As the Valar held a great festival, Melkor and Ungoliant crept into Valinor, cloaked in shadow. At the base of the two trees, Telperion and Laurelin, they attacked. Melkor stabbed them with his black spear, and Ungoliant drained their light. The trees withered and died. Light itself seemed to flee the world. Then they turned north. In the stronghold of Formenos, Melkor murdered Finwë, Feanor's father, and stole the Silmarils. He and Ungoliant fled across the grinding ice into the north of Middle-earth. But Ungoliant wanted more. She demanded the Silmarils. When Melkor refused, she attacked him. In desperation, Melkor let out a terrible cry. And from the depths of Angband, his Balrogs came. Yes, Balrogs. Once mire, now corrupted spirits of flame and shadow. They drove Ungoliant away, saving their master. Melkor returned to his fortress and placed the Silmarils into an iron crown, which he would never remove willingly again. It was then that Feanor, in his grief and rage, gave Melkor a new name, Morgoth, the Black Foe, the name that would curse him forever. Morgoth declared himself king of the world, and from Angband, he unleashed war upon the Elves. Thus began the long and tragic saga of the First Age, a time of great heroes, devastating betrayals, and battles that would shake the foundations of the world. In Part 2, we'll cover Morgoth's war against the Noldor, the rise of Húrin and Túrin, the fall of Gondolin, and finally, Morgoth's ultimate defeat. So make sure you subscribe to the Geek of the Rings and join us next week as we uncover the downfall of Arda's first Dark Lord. And remember, every shadow has a source, but even Morgoth, the mightiest of all Ainur, could not conquer light forever. Thanks for watching.